It's time again for those cozy fireside chats. And I usually try to do fireside chats that are uplifting and helpful. And today's maybe not so much. Once in a while you got to rant. Of course, hang on, because after the rant, I'm going to make a very important announcement at the end of this video. Well, I don't get upset very often, but sometimes maybe work my frustration out. I should just throw this in the fireplace. Does that give you a hint as to who I'm going to rant about? I was expecting a package. A few days ago, I got an email that said it was going to come a day early. That was okay. They said they would deliver it between 10:40 and 2:40. So I got a spot all ready for it. It only weighed 146 pounds, so I wanted to be sure I had room for it. So I moved both my cars in to the garage so that the truck could back up on the driveway, get closer to the step or the porch. I thought I was being nice to the delivery person. Well, the day wore on. I stayed close to the window so I could look out, and I thought I'd catch them and open the door, and maybe they'd kind of stick it in the door for me, or at least set it on the steps so I could roll it in the door without picking it up. It began to get dark. So I turned on the lights, turned off the radios and everything so I could hear the truck, put the porch lights on and the lights on the front of my garage on, left the gate open. I was working on my computer, and after a while I decided I was getting concerned. So I decided to check the tracking number. When I checked the tracking number, it said it had been delivered almost an hour earlier. I didn't hear anything, and I'm out in the country where it's quiet. So I immediately went to the door and opened the door. I looked down my 52-foot porch, didn't see a package. There was nothing on my 42-inch wide step. So I started to shut the door. I thought it must have been a mistake. And then I caught a glimpse way out at the end of my concrete driveway. Now that's 35 feet in the dark and in the mist. I saw something, so I walked out there, and sure enough, on the wet concrete, because it had rained off and on all day, and on the wet grass, sat 4 boxes. Well, I panicked because I could see $1,400 going down the drain. I grabbed one of the boxes. I managed to get it to the step and then roll it in the entryway. I rushed back to get another box, and then I remembered. I had spent several weeks in bed just a few weeks before with a bad back injury. So I stopped, decided I better go get a back brace, which I did. And then I managed to roll one of the boxes up on top of the other so I didn't have to lift it quite so far. But that last box was just sitting on the wet grass. That cardboard box on the wet grass had to be picked up all the way from the ground, and I struggled to get it to the step. Well, needless to say, I was furious. My normally low blood pressure was boiling. I've never in my 82 years seen such stupidity. Cardboard boxes, and wait till you hear what's in them, on wet grass. What was this person thinking? Oh, they weren't thinking, that's right. But anyway, I don't know if I'd want somebody like that driving a truck for me. But anyway, I got them in. On the way to the phone to call, I kept remembering that verse in Ephesians 4:26. Be angry and sin not, and don't let the sun go down on your anger. Well, the sun had already gone down, obviously. It was very dark outside. So maybe I had a whole day to be angry, I don't know. But anyway, that's just a little pearl of wisdom. If you know a Bible verse, it might keep you from sinning, because I didn't lose my religion when I got them on the phone. I didn't say one cuss word, but I did have a few choice words for them. I need to make an announcement here at the end, but I want to show you first exactly where these boxes were when it got daylight, so you can see just what transpired. So hang on, and then at the end, we're going to make a very important announcement. This is where the boxes were sitting, in the dark. As I stood in the doorway, this is what I could see. And I walked out there, and sure enough, there was my delivery, sitting at the end of the concrete, partly on the wet grass and leaves, partly on the wet concrete as it had rained most of the day. I hate to think what would have happened if I hadn't found them that day, because this is what it looked like the next morning standing in my doorway. And all the way out, the concrete was wet. Of course, it had rained, it had soaked. The delivery would have been a total loss. This is what it looked like the next morning as I stood where the boxes were and filmed back. And then this is how my house looked, all lit up the night before during the delivery. The girl at FedEx said, well, maybe he thought you weren't home. Well, that much more the reason to get it on this dry porch, which had plenty of room with chairs and tables they could have set it on, not to mention the step where neither one of us would have had to stoop quite so far. But I did manage to get it in, hopefully without damage to more than one box and maybe a couple of chiropractor visits for me. But stay tuned, because I'm going to explain to you just what was in. This is not exactly how I intended to make this announcement. As you can see, I had the easel all set up, and the boxes were going to make a grand entrance through that door. And then we were going to make these announcements. And I want you to notice on the side of the box it says DigiPod Digital Printing on Demand. That means there's some kind of printed material in there. Well, it just happens to be my new book that's fixing to come out. Several dozen copies. It's the name of the book is We Walk Through Dementia, a 3.5-year journey dealing with Lewy body disease. It's the true story of the last few years of my life with my sweet husband, who's waiting for me over in Glory Land. But there's a lot of helps in this book that I hope will help other people. So you want to be sure and hit that subscribe button over there so that you'll know the release date when our book comes out. So don't forget the subscribe button in the corner.